Hey, everybody, Kevin here with Pursuing Pixels, and welcome back to another edition of Save It for the Cast, and you know the drill by now. This week we got the full gang in the house. I'm going to be kicking the ball over to John, Randall, and I in just a little bit here. We're pretty much on topic, all video game action this week. Randall had a little bit of a thunderstorm going on during our recording session here that we had for this particular episode. Thankfully, we were able to get through the whole thing, but you can hear a little bit of that in the background. And yeah, we do a little just kind of episode coordinating, talk about bad weather experiences and stuff like that as kids and stuff like that, have a few laughs about that. But yeah, we really kind of lean into mostly video game territory, talk a little bit of Prince of Persia, that Lost Crown, new version of the game or reimagining of the series. I guess it's not all that new anymore. And then we talked quite a bit about the Playdate. I got a chance to play that over at a buddy's house the other day recently. I guess it's been probably a couple months now since I actually had a chance to play that. But it was really cool to actually get a hands-on experience with that. I don't think I'll end up purchasing one, at least not anytime soon, but it still was super cool. But before I kick it over to John, Randall, and I for all that video game chit-chat and whatnot in just a little bit, I'm going to talk about some of the stuff that I've been not necessarily playing, but doing. I've been on a huge collecting kick again. I found 5 or 6 more stores near me that are all really solid. I know when Randall was in town, I guess it was probably a year, maybe even 2 years ago now at this point. And we hit up I don't know, 5 or 6 stores, and we were both pretty surprised by the price points that we found and the games we were able to find. I mean, it's always just a crapshoot when you go to a local brick and mortar game shop, what they're going to have, based on what people have traded in or, what they might stock, just regularly. Some of these stores do carry quite a few new games. Although I have been burned a couple times. I was able to return them, thankfully, but bought a version that I didn't realize was not the NTSC North American version. It still had the NTSC rating or ESRB rating on the front, but it was a Middle Eastern or World Edition, which doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, especially because the Switch is region free. But I'm just an idiot about collecting, and I'm I gotta have the the version that I'm supposed to have or whatever. I don't know. It's just some dumb logical thing in my brain, or illogical thing in my brain is what I should say. But nonetheless, I've been doing a bunch of collecting and updating. I actually got a spreadsheet all up to date. I'll actually post a link to that in the episode description here. It's just a Google Drive doc. So a couple misspellings on there, but for the most part, it's pretty much my entire video game collection. Also got that uploaded onto the website pricecharting.com, which if you're not familiar with that, it's a great place to track. I think you can do other things like sporting cards and Pokemon cards and Magic the Gathering, other collectibles as well. But video games is kind of one of the main things. So it's really cool to kind of plug things in, see what they're worth and whatnot, and just kind of regularly track your collection as well. It's just pretty cool. But yeah, I picked up one of the things that I was the most excited to pick up. I know I talked about some of the Wii U games that I've been playing lately on a recent episode. Actually, I don't think that episode's out yet, so I will be talking about Star Fox Zero and Kirby and the Rainbow Curse, which I was able to track down a couple copies of recently. But then a couple days later, a week or so later, was able to track down Paper Mario Color Splash, which I had really been trying to hunt down and had up to this point had a really hard time finding it. Now all of a sudden I'm seeing it everywhere, and I knew John was on the hunt for both Rainbow Curse and Color Splash as well. So I found 2 good prices on them again at a different shop, and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to buy these for John. He always lets me crash at his place in Chicago when I go visit, so it's the least I can do to return the favor. But on top of those Wii U games that I got to pretty much round out my Wii U collection, I also picked up the Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed, which if you're not familiar with that game, my experience with that game, I think it's come up on the podcast. I had it on PlayStation 3, or maybe my buddy had it, my roommate at the time. I can't remember, but we played it like crazy. And then our save file got corrupted, and all the tracks and carts and characters and whatever, everything we unlocked, we would have had to start over from scratch. And we were just we're just not going to do that again. But honestly, my memory of that game, because we were playing Mario Kart 8 at the time as well, and my memory of that game was that that's my favorite kart racing game that I've ever played. It really leans into the Diddy Kong racing element, and the track literally changes each time, and it transforms to the point where it'll collapse and turn into a water level or something like that. It's been a long time since I played it, but I'm really excited to fire that one back up. That's one of the ones I'm the most excited to fire back up. And then I also just picked up a few random PS4 games. I stood my PS4 up vertically now. I read online that with that issue I've been having where like when I pop a disc in and I have to like tap on the top of the system a few times, more than a few times, I kind of hit it pretty hard sometimes to get the disc to like lodge into place or whatever. I read that if you stand it up vertically, that can sometimes help. And so far, so good, knock on wood. I've been able to pop in a few discs and pop them out and, swap them in and out and have no issue with getting them started and, no, finicking with the disc drive or whatever. But yeah, I picked up like Spider-Man on PS4. I also picked up the Crash Bandicoot and the Spyro like trilogy collections. More excited to play the Crash games than the Spyro games. But to be fair, I've actually never played the Spyro games in any capacity. Like I think maybe on like a demo disc, or maybe one of my cousins had, my one cousin had the PS1, but I mainly remember playing like Crash Bandicoot, watching him maybe play either, I don't know if it was the original Diablo or Diablo 2. But yeah, I just, I'm excited to, and I thought about getting the Crash collection on Switch, and same thing with Spyro, I guess, too, but I just know those PS4 versions are like quite a bit better, like, graphical quality. Not that I'm like the biggest sucker for that kind of stuff, but just knowing that it'll run a little bit better. I just figured, and it was a cheap enough price, I figured why not. Also got a couple PS3 games, even though last time I tried my PS3 out, it wasn't working all too well, but I was just super pumped to find a copy of Resonance of Fate. I think I might have even brought that up on a Save It for the Cast. It's a game from Sega that I think is like a JRPG, but it has kind of like a, I think we brought it up while I was talking, the game The Last Story must have come up at some point, which was a Wii game that was like a JRPG with like an interesting, like, third person, like over the shoulder real-time combat system. And this game has, at least, look wise, it looks pretty similar combat wise. You can like take cover. It almost has like a, nowhere near like Gears of War, but I mean, it has like a little bit of that kind of flavor to it where you're like ducking and hiding and stuff like that and then looking for the right shot, having not played it at all. And then I also picked up another game from Sega, Vanquish, that I never owned, but that same roommate had that game, or maybe just downloaded it or something. I don't know. I just remember playing that game. Maybe it was a PS Plus game, but I just remember playing that game at one point and just really, really having a good time. It's like a first person, maybe a third person shooter. I think it's a third person shooter because I remember you would do this. The main mechanic is like you can do this like hyper like jet boost like knee slide, and it just feels so satisfying. You go so fast. Like it almost has like a little bit of like a Mirror's Edge kind of flavor to like the momentum and like the ducking. It's nowhere near as like parkour-y, if you will. But it's still just really, really cool. And I just having a lot of fun playing with like the movement in that game, from what I remember. So I'm excited to have that, and hoping that my PS3, I also read that if you stand up the PS3 vertically, the issue that I was having with that console can also potentially be alleviated. But if not, I can always just either get another one or tinker with it, try to clean it out. And then also not rounded out entirely, but got a few 3DS games. One that I've never seen in the wild before. I got Kid Icarus Uprising. And then I also scooped up Metroid Samus Returns, which I am super excited to add to the collection as well. And then it was super cheap. It was only $8, so I grabbed Sushi Striker, which I already have on Switch. The Way of Sushido is the subtitle, but it's a really great like match 3 action puzzle game that really works great on the 3DS. Like I played all 3 of these for just a little bit. And that one really grabbed my attention, and I grabbed my attention quite a bit on the Switch too. It's a really fun, just action-packed puzzle game. I'd really love to play this one like versus against like Randall or John or anybody for that matter. But it plays really like fluidly, and it's just really fun to play with the stylus touch controls. You can do the touch controls on the Switch as well, but like playing with your finger and like dragging it across the screen didn't really work for me. It worked great to just play with like the joystick and kind of angle it around, but it almost felt like you could like cheese it a little too much. Like you could, I don't know, it just felt like a little bit like, yeah, you could just kind of cheese it with that joystick and like aim it wherever, but you can kind of cheese it with the stylus too in a different way. But I know the game was kind of designed to play with those touchscreen controls. But yeah, I did actually play a little bit of the other two as well. Metroid Samus Returns, just playing like the opening bit just to get a little flavor of the, setting and what the game looks like. But it really, I really love the 3DS. I really didn't, I'm not someone who cares about 3D effects or anything like that, but it just looks so good. And like the depth, I crank that 3D up. I know I've said it on the podcast before, but I just crank it up like all the way to the max for pretty much every game. Sushi Striker is a 3DS game, but it actually doesn't have any actual 3D effects to the gameplay or the visuals or anything. But even like Metroid Samus Returns, it's a game that's entirely in 2D gameplay wise, but just being able to see like the caves and the caverns and the depth of everything, like all the way in the background, is just so awesome. And then Kid Icarus Uprising, I played for just a little bit, and I was really loving it. The controls, like, it's a little bit funky. You got to play with like one hand on the joystick, one hand or your thumb on the joystick. You basically just are holding the console with your left hand if you don't have like the little stand that it came with, which I don't. So you're holding the console in your left hand, and you have just your thumb on the joystick, and then your right or your left index finger on the shoulder button for shooting, and you can pretty much just hold that down, but you can like let go and let it charge up and fire a blast shot, and then you're using the stylus to aim. And while I was flying through the air, I was like, this feels amazing. But then you get to some land combat sections, and I think I just have to get used to it and like get used to the grip of the console, or figure out like a place to put it down while I play these sections, because you really have to like whip the camera around, because it's like in full 3D all of a sudden, as opposed to being more of like an on rails like Star Fox style game. And it's still kind of on rails, but you can like, you're like fully moving on the ground, and you have to do 180s and turn around to attack enemies and do melee attacks. And it just started to get like a little bit more confusing, or maybe cumbersome is the right word to use, but I was still having a ton of fun with that one. And just presentation wise, it's just like out of control, and it has like a really different energy than I'm used to from a Nintendo game. I think this one is developed by Sakurai, was like the lead designer from the Smash Brothers fame, and you can really kind of feel that energy even in like the menus and everything like that. But yeah, I've been playing a few other things here and there, but I thought it'd be kind of fun to just round up some of the stuff that I've scooped up recently. Oh, and one more game I grabbed, it's still sealed copy, actually. I didn't even know that this existed, but Valkyria Chronicles Remastered on PlayStation 4. There's like a Steelbook edition that caught my eye on the shelf just because it was sealed, and saw the Valkyria Chronicles logo. And then I was like, oh man, this looks awesome. The box art, I was just like a sucker for it. It was a good price too, so I figured why not add that one to the collection, even though I'll probably never get around to playing it. I'll probably never even get around to unwrapping it, go Randall style with that one. But yeah, I think I've done more than enough rambling here. So yeah, I'll kick the ball over to John Randall and I for a little more video games chit chat before we wrap things up this week. And yeah, until next week, we will catch you then, and take care.
Give y'all a potential technology warning that we had the chance of severe thunderstorms.
Ooh,
and,
okay.
I have been hearing some booms. It looked like most of it was going to pass us, but now I am hearing them, and my my power backup thing is making some clicky noises, so it means we got some voltage regulation things going on. So
okay,
let's get this ball rolling then. So I think we can. Let me check when my game came out. I think it's a new game, but I think it would be a good one maybe to open. Oh, it's not new. Wow, this is actually super old. Never mind.
That's good.
I have a feeling that because I wrote down a game that you mentioned at some point in time that you never mentioned again. So I'm just like, I wonder if that's the game that John's been playing, because it has been out for a while.
I'm interested. I'm very interested to see what your game that you think I might be playing is.
Yeah. One game I'm not going to talk about that I did write down just because I forgot that I even started this. Apparently, I wrote this down a long time ago, but Prince of Persia Lost Crown, that newer 2D one, I finally actually popped that physical copy in. It's pretty solid. It's like kind of was giving me a way slower pace, but it was like giving me a little bit of like that Strider vibe in terms of like, oh, it's like a Metroidvania with like that kind of level of production. A little higher, obviously, because it's 10 years or whatever later. Although I still like the style of that Strider game a little more, but it's cool. It's fun. Like the combat's fun, and I'm enjoying the little bit I played so far.
That's what I've heard from other podcasts talking about it too.
Nice.
Like at the very least that it's really solid and it's fluid and pretty well polished.
Who made it?
Yeah, like the movement. It's Ubisoft or whatever. I don't know who's I'm sure there's maybe another studio underneath them that made it, but Yeah, I think I got it for like 15 or 20 bucks when it was on sale physically for a stupidly low price, like 18 or something. And I was like, man, that just seems like a good enough game to give a shot at that price.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I can definitely report that it does.
Nice.
Pretty bummed about that. I know you saw it, John. I don't know if you did, Randall, but that Might and Magic.
Oh
Clash
yeah,
of
I read that
Heroes,
before I jumped on.
that hot seat. That is so dumb. I was like, I was looking at the screen. The two options were online or 1v1 hot seat. And then I was like reading up about it, and I was like, yeah, apparently on Steam it's the same thing. And like when I played it on PS3 with Steve back in the day, we both would have our own controller. You can even see like your cursor. I said it in the chat too, but like you could like move your cursor, and we would like use that almost to like juke the other person. Like, oh, it looks like I'm gonna stack these. Like I'm preparing to do this move next, and then I'd be like, oh no, I'm gonna build a wall over here instead. I don't know, but just on top of that, I don't know. It just seems like it would take so much longer. I'd have to sit right fucking next to the person.
Is it random matches online, or can you do a lobby and like?
I think you can like sync up with somebody if you wanted to. Like if you had the game and I had the game, I think we could realistically sync up together. But that just seems like such a bummer.
Yeah.
Where on the other hand, I don't know for sure about this, but I thought I read with Advance Wars, if you can like play multiplayer battles with only one person having the game, like old school, like DS style.
Ooh, nice.
They don't
was, like,
ever
something
do that
that
anymore.
Yeah, there was something that it said like there's limitations, like you can do more things if everybody has the game.
Sure.
I can't remember, but it might have even been a different game now that I'm thinking about it. But it was just something to that effect. But
That's still cool.
I'll probably end up talking about that game a little bit here today if we're going to talk a little strategy.
Oh yeah.
Action with Kingdom and such. I guess I don't even know for sure if that's what you're talking about, Randall. I just kind of presume since that's been the main thing I've seen you on, but it certainly doesn't need to be. I've been playing a ton of stuff.
No, I've been playing a lot of that. So that probably makes sense to do that. And I could talk a little bit about finishing up the Quarry also.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Nice.
Played more Indiana Jones, but I still need to play more of that game.
I hear that thunder.
It's a pretty rare thing out in these parts, so it's kind of exciting
that sounds pretty strong.
too.
Yeah.
Would you want to start with the Quarry in case we lose you mid-recording?
Yes.
It ends up being a duo.
Yes.
That's it. That makes sense too. I like when we do those like kind of updates of something that we talked about before at like the start of an episode.
Yeah.
Or it doesn't matter where it is, but I like when we get like a continuation.
Also, yeah, if it gets spooky there, like feel free to dip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or if you want to, if like Fiona is scared or something, if you need to.
No, she was excited. She was disappointed that it seemed like we were going to miss it. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Because she hears us talk about like growing up in Michigan, in the Midwest, and the thunderstorms and stuff, and she's only experienced it once so far. So
yeah.
Did
you guys get tornadoes out in Michigan?
Kinda.
Tornado warnings. They've happened, but like not in any of the places I lived. But I definitely distinctly remember being like 5 or 6 and hiding in like the one area of my dad's small house that we were quote unquote safe in.
Safe.
You know?
Yep.
Yeah. We would all go in the basement, and my dad would just be like standing on the porch. Hey, I love this weather. And we're like, Dad, get back! Freaking out. Like, obviously, it was fine. Obviously,
yeah.
He's like, I'll know, and I'll come down if it's. He's like, I just love watching the weather roll in.
Yeah, I've seen.
Now I totally get it.
Oh yeah,
I've seen a few cyclones form, and every time I'm like, this fucking sucks. I hate looking at this. Like, you're very far away, or like we're in a car, and I can see you like an entire like farm a distance away, but I still don't like that I see you. I would much rather.
Terrifying, yeah.
In Illinois or
oh yeah, like southern Illinois or like central.
Yeah,
Illinois.
I can see that. Yeah, it's just like pure farmland.
Yeah. You can see for miles and miles, and like when you see something spooky that far away, you're like, ugh.
Yeah.
So after the Corey here. Oh, I forgot. I'm not going to talk about this on the podcast, but I forgot. Do you have a Playdate, Randall? I can't remember.
No, I eyeballed it.
I thought you had one for some reason.
No, I mean, that's my type of bullshit, but no, I never.
Yeah,
I have to stop myself at some point,
That's where I was at, too. I was just like, okay, I can't buy this other, like, one-off exclusive device that's going to have all these one-off exclusive games on it.
Has anyone made a generic crank controller that you can emulate Playdate games with?
Well, I got to think because you develop them on the computer. I got to think there's got to be some kind of like mouse input that you can emulate it or something.
Yeah, using the mouse wheel.
Yeah.
I don't feel it would be the same though.
It wouldn't be
the same.
No, you need the crank.
Yeah, I need that full analog crank action.
You need the torque that comes from like having that little arm.
Yeah, the feedback. I mean, it's a really slick little machine.
It is.
Without a doubt. Like, it's so nicely made. Even just the way the handle like tucks into it. So like, there's like a little slot for like the little yellow handle, and it like slips right in there. He had the little. My buddy Nathan, he had a game night over at his place the other day, and he busted it out real quick because he just knows I'm into all that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah.
He's like, check this out. So I played a little bit of. I talked about it. I think I talked about this game on the podcast way back in the day because it was a Pico 8 game, Pull Frog. Ooh. It's like a Tetris game where you like play as like a little frog, kind of Wario's Wood style. And you jump around and like pull the puzzle pieces with your tongue. In this version, I didn't play enough of it to like get to further in the game, but it looked like it added like a shop and like little things like in between stages. It looked really cool. The one thing I'll say, the screen is like really, really slick, but you have to have it on like such a specific angle for it to like catch the light right.
It kind of looks like an e-ink sort of screen or something, right? It's like
what's that you said?
Like an e-ink screen, like a e-reader sort of screen.
That's exactly what it looks like. Yeah, and you have to have it on like you definitely can't be looking at it like straight on. You have to almost have it at like a 45-degree angle, almost like even sharper than that, or like a more obtuse angle than that.
Right.
Mm-hmm. But Pull Frog was cool. It's kind of a small device, so my hand was like cramping up a little, but not cramping up. I didn't play it long enough for that to happen. But the other game that utilized that, Pull Frog didn't use the crank at all, but this other game was called Root Bear, which was basically like a root beer tapper kind of situation.
Okay.
But instead of like feeding, like jumping down the different bars and like grabbing the beers and filling them up and throwing them down the line, you basically just get like, you're just like this, it's a single screen kind of almost like first person perspective. You're like staring right at this bear bartender who's filling up these root beer glasses, and it's either like, it'll throw you a pitcher, will slide right in front of you, or a weird shaped glass or a regular glass, and then there's like an exact like dotted line where you want to fill that glass up to this exact spot, and you like crank the thing in one direction, or not even crank, you don't have to keep turning it, you more like kind of crank it to open the lever. But you can it's really touchy, so you can like open it full throttle or like dial it back to let it like top it off. It gets like real sensitive in a good way.
Yeah.
And then you have to like get it because like the beer, like if you're pouring it too fast, like the foam will start rising up. So it's like you actually have to stop it where like the liquid is below the line, but the foam is above the line, and then they'll like meet in the middle. It was really tricky. I only got a couple perfects, but it's like just this real satisfying, your bear does this little like pose for a second, like perfect pour. But that game was very addicting. Like it was like basically like a little bit more of a fleshed out like WarioWare mini game basically, but like just with like a and it was all about just getting like the highest score you can get in the set amount of time. And just, they just keep throwing glasses at you and just try to fill them up the best you can. And I don't know how it was scoring you, but I'm assuming just based on how close to perfect you fill it up.
Yeah, the Playdate is kind of WarioWare the hardware.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. I know.
It really is. Even the way it has like kind of a gimmicky control scheme, with where it twisted and touched and
you got to crank stuff. It.
And another game he had, I was impressed by how many games he just had on there. He's like, yeah, pretty much anything I see that looks good. He's like, I just buy it. You know what? I didn't look for that one. I should have mentioned. I'll have to text him about that one because he needs to get that game.
Yeah, I feel like that one would control well with the it's asteroids, but with the crank controls.
Yeah, I didn't realize they utilized that for the actual controls. That's cool. Oh, it's for the steering. It's not for the. I would assume
so. I don't know. I've only played the Steam version of it, but I know that it was originally a Playdate game.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's cool because the other game he had too that I did, he had a bunch of games like I said, but he had that game Wire Walk. I didn't boot it up at all, but it was like that top-down Zelda style game that I talked about way back in the day on the podcast. Has like a very much like a Game Boy style to it.
Nice.
And almost like a Pokemon like personality and look to it. But just a really cool game where I was like, oh, I didn't know this was on Playdate. So just really cool to finally like have one in my hand, and that's all I ever really needed to see of it. Like I would love to have one if I got one for free or something, but I'm probably not going to drop X amount of dollars on it and then X amount of dollars on games after that, you know?
Right. It's the perfect like amount to have is to just have a good experience with it. Be like, that was nice.
Hey, that was cool to check out for a second. Exactly.
It's so
cool
fascinating,
to check out for a second.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, just the fact that something like that can get greenlit and like produced to the point of actually existing.
It's a niche game platform, ultimately, you know?
Yeah.
I'm now comparing like the Ouya to like all of those, like not even the Ambernic handhelds, but just all of the cheap knockoff emulators. Like here, we just loaded 1,000 illegal ROMs into this thing and sold it until we got a cease and desist. Like,
yep.
Yeah, that's the problem. Those things aren't like niche enough, you know, like they're just like not. They don't have enough of a shtick.
Right. Like there aren't people making games for those platforms, even though that would be kind of neat. Cool if they did.
That would be fantastic.
Yeah, for real. Dude, the Wii U is getting me hyped now that I have it hooked back up, man. I've been on the hunt for the reason I actually went to the game store. I was like, the one game, no, there's 2, maybe 3 games in the Wii U library that I don't have in my collection that I need to add. Kirby and the Rainbow Curse. I never bought that game.
Baby.
Yep.
So I need to track that one down. Paper Mario Color Splash, which they actually had at that store, but it was like a little bit beat up and it was like $60 or $70. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to do this for a beat up copy.
That tracks.
And then what was the other one? There's one more.
How many physical Wii U games do you have, Kevin?
I think probably like 20 or something like that. Maybe a little bit less.
Yeah.
Maybe 15 to 20.
I feel like I only have like 10.
There's some I need. Like I need to get rid of like Smash Brothers on Wii U. It's like I
but
won't
it's
even
the
get
best
anything
one.
for it. Maybe. I don't think there is a best one. Smash Brothers.
You're just absolutely wrong. But
I like the first one was my favorite.
First one's fun.
It's the one I played the most. The first one or Melee. Those were the ones I definitely played the most.
I played so much Brawl, and I really loved the Wii U and 3DS ones, even if the Wii U was the superior title, the 3DS had the better like modes. And like
I remember it was like some slight differences. Yeah,
I played a decent chunk of that 3DS one too. I was kind of psyched that exists and was possible on portables. Like, oh, this is sweet. And I can remember using the nub for like the smash attacks you could do and stuff like that. Yeah,
wasn't it cross-platform too? Like, couldn't you play 3DS versus Wii U? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Which is that's kind of nuts.
What a fucking good system. What a fucking good game.
Definitely. No, it's cool to see. I feel like even though I've kind of turned the corner on Super Mario RPG, I haven't played anymore since last time, but I decided to keep it at the very least. I don't know if I turned the corner on it. But like, it's interesting to see like the Advance Wars remake taking like kind of the same approach. Like it is like a beat for beat, best I can tell. Like everybody in the reviews was saying like this game, other than some quality of life improvements, like this is the same fucking game.
Nice.
And obviously presentation changes, but like, you know.
But it doesn't chug, right?
No, it runs nice, best I can tell. Okay, who knows if you get to some of the bigger maps, but I can't imagine what would chug in that game.
Yeah.
Like nothing's like happening in real everything's like a played out animation.
Exactly.
But, yeah. Walk into Hyrule Town and Echoes of Wisdom and you'll see that anything can chug.